Oh boy, Alec Baldwin is in a lot of trouble. Charged today in the involuntary manslaughter of Halyna Hutchins. Remember, that accident happened on a set of an Alec Baldwin movie called Rust. They were shooting it back in October, I think, of 2021. And he is been formally charged today with the involuntary manslaughter of Halyna Hutchins. Let's check out what we got going on. So, from Fox News, Alec Baldwin hit with involuntary manslaughter in the death of Halyna Hutchins, facing up to 18 months in prison, formally charged today. So let's go through some of this article here. Alec Baldwin was charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the death of Halyna Hutchins. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was also the armorer on the film set Rust, has also been charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Alec Baldwin's attorney called the charges a terrible miscarriage of justice in a statement to Fox Digital News. This discussion distorts Halyna Hutchins' tragic death and represents a terrible miscarriage of justice. Luke, is it Nick? I'm going to butcher this last name. Nicias of Quinn Enamel said, Mr. Baldwin had no reason to believe there was a live bullet in the gun or anywhere on the movie set. He relied on the professionals of whom he worked and was assured that the gun did not have a live round. We will fight these charges and we will win. And that's kind of what I thought was going to happen in this case, that as the charges came down, now it's going to start deflecting, all of the miscarriages that went on in this movie set, all the things that were wrong, the reports we heard. I mean, I think I remember reading a report about people actually being on set shooting beer cans with live rounds during the filming of this. And there were people literally quitting left and right, saying that the set was a total mess. There was no direction. And, the person that ran all of this is Alec Baldwin. It was his his movie, his production company. So, he's the sole person that's responsible for this movie set to make sure that things are going as planned and correctly. So we want to thank the Santa Fe sheriff. So it says Hutchins' family thanked the sheriff office and the DA after the charges were announced. We want to thank the Santa Fe sheriff and the district attorney of concluding their thorough investigation, determining the charges for involuntary manslaughter are warranted for the killing of Halyna Hutchins and the conscious disregard of human life, said a statement issued on the behalf of the Hutchins family via their attorney. Our independent investigation also supports charges are warranted. It is a comfort to the family and New Mexico. No one is above the law. We support the charges. We will fully cooperate with the prosecution and fervently hope for the justice system to work and protect the public and uphold these who break the law. It goes on to say New Mexico First Judicial Attorney Mary Carmack. I don't know why they always have these crazy last names, and I just feel bad because I'm gonna outwise. I always feel bad that I'm gonna butcher their last names. So announced the charges Thursday morning, more than a year and a half after Hutchins' tragic death. If Baldwin is convicted, he could face up to 18 months in prison. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Involuntary manslaughter in New Mexico, and this is kind of the definition here. Involuntary manslaughter in New Mexico is a Class D felony punishable by 18 months in prison, former district U.S. attorney explained to Fox News Digital. If Baldwin is convicted, I can see him being sentenced at or near the max. Baldwin has a strong, and then it goes on to say, Baldwin has a strong case for defense, and I can see him pushing the case to trial for legal and public relation reasons, he continued. He has to think about his acting career in addition to doing time. If he rolls the dice and loses the trial, the judge may hammer him for causing Hutchinson's death. He's got a lot to think about right now, and I was just thinking, I was driving back from a haircut. I actually have a date tonight, which is pretty cool and pretty exciting. Someone that I haven't gone out with, so the nerves are kind of settling in. But I was driving back from my haircut back home, and I'm thinking like he's got a lot of issues. I and I also saw something where because the gun was used in the act of the crime, that he could face up to an additional 5 years. And I don't see anything here in the article yet. It may be in this article, but I was hearing something, as the headlines are playing in the radio, that he could face up to an additional 5 years in prison. So I mean, he's got a lot to think about, a really lot to think about. Does the preponderant evidence show that he, knew about this? Does he fight it all the way? If he fights it all the way, like they were just saying, let's say he fights and loses, the judge is going to hammer him. I mean, he can go to prison for close to almost 3 years, uh, almost 2 years. I'm sorry. And then if those additional charges with the handgun that's involved too, I mean, he could face another 5. And that's, I did hear something about that, but I haven't seen this in this article. So I'm not completely clear about that, but they said in the act of a commission that a gun was used in this, it could be which is crazy. You would think the firearms charge would be 18 months, and you would think the involuntary manslaughter charge would be 5 years if that's the case. But he's got a lot to think about. I mean, if the evidence is pointing that he knew about this and uh, was really pointing towards him, and he has no way to fight this, he might want to cut a deal. Maybe they come back in 6 months, 8 months, give him a year, which I think is wrong. And I'm going to tell you, 18 months for the loss of someone's life is way too lenient. I think it's just way too lenient. And I'm sure that some of his status plays into it. You have all those factors too. So I just wonder if he's going to go all the way out to trial. I'm sure this will get dragged out. I mean, it's totally going to get dragged out. I mean, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 years to go to trial, and get this, and get this taken into court. So let's see. Let's go on to read on. District Attorney explains that Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed were charged in the alternative. This means the jury will decide not only if the two are guilty, but will also decide which definition of involuntary manslaughter their actions fall under. Let's get a sip of water here. If any of these three people, Alec Baldwin, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, or Dave Halls, had done their job, Halyna Hutchins would be alive today. It's that simple. Andrea Reed, the special prosecution appointed by the DA to cease, said in a statement, the evidence clearly shows a pattern of criminal disregard for safety on the set of Rust. And that has been the biggest factor in this case, that there were many reports as this was going on, and I probably can pull some old articles up, that the set was not secure, and around gun safety, especially on that set, was not secure. In the New Mexico, it goes on to say in New Mexico, there's no room for a film set that did not take our state's commitment to gun safety and public safety seriously. Before announcing the decision, the district attorney's office spent time reviewing a comprehensive report submitted by the Santa Fe County Sheriff Office. It's been over a year since the cinematographer was killed in New Mexico on set. And this looks like probably Baldwin's wife or girlfriend leaving an apartment in New York City. And we have photos here of Halyna Hutchins. It's sad. Beautiful woman struck dead on the set of Rust. It says Halyna died when a gun Alec Baldwin was holding was fired when he while practicing a scene on October 21st, 2021. The group had been reassured. The group had been rehearsing in a small church on the Bonanza Creek Ranch set. The Santa Fe County Sheriff Department has spent the last year investigating how live rounds made it onto the movie set. Armor Hannah Gutierrez-Reed and Assistant Director Dave Halls were the only crew members believed to have handled the gun that fired on set. And this is where I was saying, going back to, um, reports that people were screwing around on set, they were shooting beer cans. Some of that stuff was coming out when this first happened. Never in a million years did Hannah think that live rounds could be in a dummy round box. One of the Gutierrez-Reed's attorneys, Jason Bowles, said in a statement shared with Fox News shortly after the fatal accident. Who put those in there, and why is there the central question? Halls allegedly handed Baldwin a .45 revolver, telling him that it was cold or safe. Prior to that, Gutierrez spun the cylinder to show Halls that what was in the gun, her lawyer said. Baldwin has maintained that he did not pull the trigger of the gun once during a primetime interview shortly following the deadly shooting, and again on a podcast episode. The actor originally said that he had pulled the hammer of the gun back as far as he could and released it, but he did not pull the trigger. And the FBI has tested this theory on that gun, and the only way that that gun ultimately would have fired is if someone pulled that trigger. So we know that that is going to be used into evidence on the prosecution side. Let's see. Carmack, specifically in her request for emergency funding to prosecute the case, the DA explained that she anticipated prosecuting up to 4 individuals, possibly including Baldwin. The Rust prosecution could potentially be precautions from 1 to 4 defendants. Carmack wrote in a paper that filed an emergency grant. One of the possible defendants is well-known actor Alec Baldwin. And you have him. A wrongful death lawsuit was filed against Baldwin and other key members of the prosecution production on February 15, 2022. I got a chat here. I'm just going to pull that up really quick. Hey, Design, how are you? And Design says, also on set, there are multiple checks before a camera rolls. The prop supervisor usually checks the firearms and shouts live when ready. These were apparently inconsistent on set. Yes, there were many, many inconsistencies. There were many, many reports of inconsistencies. There were people literally quitting on set because of basically the shit show that was going on. And this has been reported. And then after this happened, I think everybody is just going to run to scramble and try to distance themselves as best as they can, because they don't want to be involved, and then they don't want to be blamed. So everybody just starts pointing the finger at that point. Let's read on. The lawsuit named Baldwin and others who are responsible for the safety on set and called out the reckless behavior and cost cutting that led to the death of Hutchins, according to the family lawyer. Matthew Hutchins' lawyer interviewed witnesses before filing and create a video compiling evidence of the wrongful death lawsuit. In the video shared at a press conference, Matthew's lawyer reiterated claims from crew members that the Rust set was unsafe. The lawsuit claimed that Baldwin, who was the producer of the film, and the other Rust crew and cast committed major breaches of safety on set. And that's the biggest thing. Baldwin being the producer, he is the guy that is responsible. He is the one that is in charge. The cinematography family sued for punitive damages and funeral and burial expenses, among the other originally to be determined at trial. However, on October 5th, Halyna's husband announced a civil lawsuit and had been settled pending court approval. Following the conclusion of the civil lawsuit, Matthew revealed the film of Rust would continue. Wow, how do you continue? In January 2023, but it would not return to New Mexico where Halyna's death occurred. Wow, that's pretty shitty. The production of Rust will not return to New Mexico. Attorney for Rust Movie Production LLC told Fox News Digital. The production is considering other locations, including California, but no decision has been made. Yikes. Although it hasn't been confirmed whether Baldwin rejoined the production, Matthew's initial announcement claimed for production would resume with the original principal players. Wow, that's pretty disgusting that they would go on and continue this movie of where someone was killed at this day and age. I mean, it's just a little uncalled for. So Alec Baldwin is now facing charges of involuntary manslaughter, like I said, up to 18 months in prison. And again, I saw some reports out there because the act of a gun was used in the commission of this crime, that he could face an additional 5 years, but it is yet to be confirmed with that. What I wanted to do is I want to go back to the Alec Baldwin interview. I believe, let's see, when he said, I actually did not know. Yeah, the exclusive interview with ABC News. And I don't know if I'm going to get shut down on this for streaming it, but we can give it a ride here and see what happens, because usually the copywritten material usually gets shut down. Design says actors are also procedures supposed to confirm that they have checked the gun once they are handled. I'm sure you've probably spent a little time around a movie set, if you know all this stuff. So let's try to let me try to do this. I'm going to try to pull up. We'll pull up this. I hope we can get through this, because last time I tried to do this, they shut me down. But if they shut me down, what I'm going to continue to do is I'm going to film, play through, and then I will upload this later. Yeah, and if you're in, let's just take a little pause break here. If you guys are the first time over on my channel, please make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification every time I go live, drop a comment, a like. I really do appreciate all of that. So let's try this. And again, if I get shut down, I'll continue to stream through, and then I'll just repost this later. I know it will make it past when that usually happens, but I don't know why they shut live streams down, but you can always repost stuff after. So let's pull up the interview with Baldwin that was back on ABC. And I believe this was probably about a year ago when he did this interview. And let's play through that.
Marker, good.
Does that guy look rough or what?
Alec, thank you for doing this. You haven't said much in public since that tragic accident. Why speak out now?
Well, I think that
and I think the biggest thing that he should have done, and I don't know who was handling him who his handlers are, his PR, his press. I probably wouldn't have said anything. Just shut your mouth. Get your lawyer involved. Make your statements through your lawyer. Don't go on TV. Don't give any more to the situation where it could get you in trouble. And also, in his interrogation video, he talked a lot in that too. I mean, you get a lawyer right away. You don't say nothing. But I'm probably sure for who he is, so high profile, he needed to get out there, and I'm sure his advisors are like, oh no, you got to say something, you need to get out there, you have to do something about this. I think it was just probably a really poor choice on him and his PR team at that time. But we'll play through some of this and see.
Criminal investigation, that could be a while. There's all kinds of civil litigation, and I felt there were a number of misconceptions, most of it from sources I really wouldn't concern myself about, but a couple that I did concern myself about.
I hope he realizes that all of this stuff can be used at trial, in court, against him.
Authoritative statements.
Be very careful what you say.
The sheriff's department hasn't even released a report to the DA yet. The reason I wanted to sit down with you is because I really feel like I can't wait for that process to end in February, March. I mean, I'm not asking them to speed it up for my benefit. That's ridiculous. But I am saying that they're going to do
a lot of things here I probably wouldn't have said. I don't know, man. I wouldn't have done this.
What they need to do. And I wanted to come to talk to you to say that I would go to any lengths to undo what happened. I would go to any lengths to undo what happened.
I think
it's almost like, he's playing, court here. It's almost like he's trying to mount up his defense.
Big question, and the one you must have asked yourself 1,000 times: how could this have happened?
Well, there's two things I want to say about that. One is
negligence.
When I talk about this, my concern is that I don't sound like I'm the victim, because there is a victim. There's a woman who died.
Again, this is all kind of mounting that defense, in my opinion.
And my friend got shot. He's my friend. And she was a new friend. I met her and we worked together on some of the mapping out of what we're going to do on the film, which, in the movie terms, if you go make a movie with Scorsese, you and the DP don't sit down and they solicit your ideas of how to make the film. You know what I mean? In the case of Halyna, we sat down collaboratively and talked a lot about what we wanted to do in that a precious amount of time we had. But I want to make sure that I don't come across like I'm the victim, because we have two victims here. And the second thing is that all of what happened on that day leading up to this event was precipitated on one idea, and that is that Halyna and I had
It's almost like he's trying to get, his point of the story out before it goes to trial, before it goes to court. Like, this is gonna save him in some way. And again, I think it was a very poor choice interview. It's something that I wouldn't have done. I would have gotten a lawyer right away, mounting the how public he is and what happened. Someone died. You get your lawyers involved and you get your statements together. You don't come out on TV and do stuff like this. It's just my opinion. And that's what we do here. We give opinions over here, because I am the opinionated idiot.
In common. And that is, we both assumed the gun was empty, other than those, dummy rounds.
I want to get into more detail on the day in a minute, but let's take a step back. What was it that drew you to this
light up
project
a little
in the
bit.
first place, to Rust?
I'd worked on a project with Joel before.
Joel Souza, the director.
Right. He did this movie, Crown Vic, that I produced. And Joel and I stayed in touch. We're friends, and I loved Rust. He said, I want to send you this. And I read it, and I said, I love it. I love it.
Feeling lucky? Play the Mass Lottery's first ever roulette-style game, Wheel of Luck. Get your tickets at a...
Thank you, YouTube.
Rust, a low-budget Western, tells the story of an aging outlaw on the run with his young grandson. Baldwin, the film's star, is also one of the producers.
Very excited. Very, very, so excited that we finally got
the good thing about not being monetized, you don't get nailed for this music.
this made, because every
I do appreciate all the new
many
subscribers on the channel. Thank you so much.
And when it finally goes, you feel like a plane. When you finally get some lift under your wings, it's very, very gratifying. I am a purely creative producer. My authorities as a producer are casting and script, which are actually married to the role of being a lead actor in a film.
So you're not the kind of producer who's looking at the line item of each budget.
No. There are basically two types of producers who are really in charge of production: people that raise the money, and the people who spend the money. My consultations or approvals were completely about casting and about the script. I don't hire anybody in the crew.
Man, this is, it just sounds to me that he's mounting a defense for this case. He's saying, oh, I don't have nothing to do with it, and really distancing himself from what goes on. But ultimately, in the end, he was the producer on this film. So he's basically, in charge. He's in charge in a lot of certain ways of what goes on in set.
Not even the cinematographer, no one?
No, but he will apprise me of what he's doing. And he'll say to me, I got Halyna Hutchins to be the DP. I said, how do you feel about that? Are you excited? I'm very excited. She's wonderful.
What did you know about Halyna Hutchins before she started working on this?
I knew nothing about her until Joel said to me, I got her. She was fantastic.
Halyna Hutchins, the talented cinematographer praised by many in the industry, was a trailblazer in the field historically dominated by men.
Make sure we don't see people walking around like walking.
Ready? Action.
The Ukrainian-born cinematographer quickly gelled with Baldwin.
The people who watched The Daily said that her work was beautiful. She was someone who was loved by everyone who worked with and liked by everyone who worked with and admired.
I can't. I think, I think he truly feels bad, but I don't know, man. This is...
I'm sorry.
With the music and everything, it's like, come on, man.
But admired by everybody who worked with her.
Rust's 21-day production began filming on October 6th at the Bonanza Creek Ranch, just outside Santa Fe, New Mexico. The ranch has long been a favorite location for filming Westerns.
We need a place to lay low. Things have a way of escalating out here in the West, with one thing leading to another.
The day that I flew there, they'd been shooting for a week already. I come the following week on the 11th. That night of the 11th, I had dinner with Halyna and Joel. And we talked about some of the compositions I was thinking of to...
I think there was some rumors too that Baldwin and Halyna were arguing, and I think that was something that came up as well too. Through all of this when things started to come out.
What's the first time you met?
First time I met Halyna, yeah.
What was your first impression?
When I met her,
I think they actually argued at that dinner.
I knew she had that spark. I knew she had that flint to her, that she was going to get that day's work done and get the shots that she wanted. She was very focused.
She had a vision for the
She
film?
was very focused. We had a discussion about compositions of shots in which you were shooting these beautiful tableaus of the West. She had that intensity. Every day you went to work, she would say, "Good morning, how are you? How was your evening?" Boom, it was small talk, go. We weren't going to hang out and chit chat or whatever. She knew that the clock was the enemy and we have to move forward.
Once on set, Baldwin posts this video.
I want to say, I look at myself in the reflection of this and I'm really kind of appalled. It's appalling. We're here shooting a film. We start tomorrow. And
You don't really look completely with it, dude. You look a little hungover or something going on there.
no, I'm not playing Santa Claus. On the 12th, I had a safety demonstration with Halyna Reed, the armorer.
24-year-old Halyna Gutierrez-Reed, seen here in
Oh boy.
photos by the dailymail.com, was hired as the film's armorer.
I mean, I don't want to bag on people. I'm just giving my opinion, but doesn't really truly to me seem like that's someone that's in a very responsible way. And I don't judge people by their exterior. But I probably would have someone a little bit more seasoned.
In charge of all weapons on set.
Because I think this was her first time being an armorer on set.
The daughter of a famous Hollywood armorer, Rust was only her second film in this role. She spoke to the Voices of the West podcast about working as lead armorer for her first film before Rust.
I was really nervous about it at first, and I almost didn't take the job because I wasn't sure if I was ready, but doing it, it went really smooth.
I mean, if you're saying that you're not sure that you're not ready, let's back that up a second.
And I almost didn't take the job because I wasn't sure if I was ready, but
I didn't almost take the job because I didn't know if I was ready. You shouldn't have taken the job. When you go into something with guns, with not live guns, but guns that could potentially shoot a live object and kill someone, you need to make sure that you are 100% ready and prepared for that job, that you are taking someone's life in your hand. They're giving you the responsibility of making sure their life is safe. You cannot go into something saying oh, I wasn't sure if I'm going to be ready. You need to be 100% sure.
doing it, it went really smoothly.
We spent an hour and a half shooting the pistol, her giving me all her safety instructions.
Did you think she was up to the job?
I assumed because she was there and she was hired, she was up for the job.
And nothing she did raised any red flags with you?
No.
Okay. This training course you do, what did she tell you?
She said things like, remember, this is a blank round, so you have to create the discharge yourself because there's no projectile. So if you shot the gun, you go bang. When we roll the camera, you got to go bang and have the gun snap back. You have to create that. She would give you little tips about firing. And she'd say to you, when we're done, point the gun down. When we're done, you give the gun to me or to Halls, only those two people.
Dave Halls was Rust's assistant director, also known as the first AD. Seen here in this IMDb photo, he was responsible for keeping the production on schedule.
Sometimes we would be on a set that was a very, very cramped set, and they wanted people in that room on an as-needed basis. If I'm holding the gun and they say cut, I then hand the gun to Halls if she's not there.
Yeah, why Halls, not Hannah? Some people have said that only the armorer should be handling
No.
it.
That's inaccurate.
I want to say too, I think there was some reports that Baldwin was saying that he was sabotaged on set and someone set him up for this. It was a lot of things that were floating around when this happened.
in the protocols of the business, meaning Hannah would to hand me the gun 99% of the time, whatever, the preponderance of the time. But when we would say cut, if Hannah was,
I mean, I tell you, I still have a lot of problems with that armorer. I mean, her saying like, I wasn't going to take the job at first because I wasn't sure if I was ready or not. That really sits really weird with me. Again, you have to make sure when you're going into something like this that you are 100% ready and 100% focused. You are putting people's lives in your hands.
away from the set, I would hand Halls the gun.
The media is all over this Native American protest up there, and we need a no BS profile on.
Hannah Gutierrez-Reed had a dual role on set, armorer, and she was also the assistant prop master for the film. One of the things her attorney has said is that she was hired for 2 positions on the film and therefore was stretched in an
Well, if she was stretched, then she should have spoke out.
Appropriate way. Did she raise any of those concerns with you?
No, I assume that everyone who's shooting
This is really bad. I assume, this is it's not going to look good for Baldwin.
lower budget film is stretched, myself included. And I got no complaints from her or the prop department. I'm not sitting there when I'm getting dressed and ready to go do a scene saying, oh my God, the prop woman seemed very harried today. I didn't get a sense of that from any of the people on the film. The first time I heard that there was any problem with anybody in the crew of the film was when Luber said, well, we have some issues here.
Lane Looper, the first camera assistant, would email production managers a resignation letter later that night, citing safety concerns.
There you go.
Quote, during the filming of gunfights on this job, things are often played very fast and loose. So far, there have been 2 accidental weapons discharges.
That's not
He also wrote about concerns about reasonable rest and housing for local crew with long commutes to the set.
When he quit, now the day before that happened, we wrapped. And he came up to me and he said, thank you for the position you've taken on behalf of IATSE and the union on social media. I said, my pleasure.
This photo, posted by Halyna, showed the cast and crew in solidarity with IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, which had been on the verge of a strike. And Alec posted this on Instagram.
And I want to say to the people in IATSE, do what you need to do. You want to go on strike? Go on strike. Because I'll tell you something about the executives. They don't give a about you. He said, because we have some issues here. I said, such as? And he said, my men need a better hotel room. There was no mention of safety issues.
He didn't say anything about the accidental discharges on set?
He didn't say anything about anything. He goes, my men need better hotel rooms.
It was like a little bit of a, just even hearing this portion of the interview, that everything was a mess over there. Complete mess. There was no direction.
I said, well, we're leaving, we're wrapping. Will you be here tomorrow? He said, yes. Because what I was about to do, which I've done on any number of films and TV projects, was to give more of my salary back to the production to pay for X. And I was about to say to him, let me know what it would be to B&B you guys in a house that's closer to how we can address your problem. I will be happy to contribute to that. The next day they were gone.
So you had no sense from anyone on the set that people had been stretched to the point where safety was compromised?
No. I never heard one word about that.
Again, distancing himself.
No.
Rust producers told ABC News Mr. Looper's allegations around budget and safety are patently false, which is not surprising, considering his job was to be a camera operator, and he had absolutely nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols or budgets. Safety is always the #1 priority on our films.
When people say cutting costs, I don't say this with any judgment or any cynicism. Spielberg wants to save money. Tom Cruise wants to save money. Everybody who makes movies has a responsibility not to be reckless and careless with the money that you're given. Those are men who make movies that cost $205 million. And I'm making movies that cost $5 million or thereabouts.
The question, though, is were costs being cut at the expense of safety and security?
Right. That's the ultimate question. And ultimately in the end, that's all that is the most important thing on a movie set, especially when you're firing live guns.
In my opinion, no, because I did not observe any safety or security issues at all in the time I was there.
Thursday, October 21st.
Again, now
Baldwin
he's going to
posted
distance himself again and say, hey, nothing happened when I was there, et cetera, et cetera.
a photo of himself in costume
Man, he looks rough.
on Instagram. Back to in-person at the office. Blimey, it's exhausting. That morning, Looper and 6 other crew members walked off the set.
Yeah, because you probably were out partying the night before.
Filming continued with a replacement camera crew. Scene 118 in the church was slated for after lunch.
Everybody there was having a positive experience. People who are watching the show, people who are back home, you have no idea how unique an environment a motion picture set is. It's kind of, there's an instant familiarity. The amount of care, these are people who are professionals who have really good jobs in a field they love. And I looked at all these people and I see how hard they work. They're so hardworking and they're so conscientious. And you're around people and you're part of one of the great collaborative processes in the world, movie making. Everyone moving like a watch to get everything done. And when you kind of, I don't make that many movies anymore because movie making demanded that I travel and I didn't want to leave my family. All these movies I made, I stayed home. I didn't want to go. If I went,
There was a report after this all happened too. He went like shopping the next day up in Burlington, Vermont, and had been seen up there with his family. It's like, come on, man.
away. I went away for a week. To leave my family for 4 weeks and go shoot this movie, that was a big deal.
I used to actually really like Alec Baldwin until he started kind of opening his mouth up about politics. But I actually really like a lot of his movies, you know. It's just it's crazy when he just started, you know, yapping his trap and getting his politics involved. I just seen him as a kind of a broken down, really angry guy about things that he didn't really need to get involved with. You know, I don't know. It's crazy. I think just these people get bored with their time and then they just need something to talk about or bitch about or do, or it's like you have all these things, you have all the I guess what people say, the money in the world, find something else to do, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking, Hunt for Red October, The Getaway was a great one. It's really great movies. The Jury is an absolute, crazed maniac in that with Demi Moore. He's always really played Glengarry Ross, which has like one of the most best sales, sales speeches in it of all time. If you haven't checked out that, check out Alec Baldwin's sales speech in Glengarry Ross. It's just, it's really good. The Edge, another great movie with Anthony Hopkins. But I think these guys get bored, or these people get bored, so they need to start, they speak out and they start speaking out and saying their politics and all that, and just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
And I'm sitting on this pew, and so help me God, I sat on that pew right before they called lunch, and I said, this movie has made me love making movies again.
Sure.
Because I used to love to make movies. I did.
Oh, excuse me.
I worked with people once. I was going to do the movie The Edge. And they called me and said they got Tony Hopkins to do the film. What do you make of it?
Yeah, looking for you here.
And I started sobbing.
Yeah.
I just started sobbing because I thought, oh, God, I'm going to have a chance to work with this guy.
Any chance you could go easy on me?
When they cast me in It's Complicated with Meryl, I thought, I'm going to get to go make a movie with her.
Sorry.
People.
Is this, is he acting? Does he really mean it?
They have their dreams. No matter how old you are, you have your dreams of people you want to work with. And this movie made me love making movies again. I really thought we were onto something.
Feeling lucky? Play the Masked Lottery's first ever roulette-style game, Wheel of Luck. Get your tickets.
Screw the commercials. That's when you want it. That's when we love it.
It was the 12th day of their 21-day shoot.
That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Baldwin was preparing for his next scene, a shootout inside this wooden church.
Set the scene right before that happened. You're sitting in a pew in the church.
Right.
What's the scene supposed to be?
The scene is the two guys are there who have got me, cornered, and they think I'm shot pretty bad, and I'm kind of wilting, and they have a gun, and the sound outside distracts them, and I then draw the gun cross-draw out of my holster, pull the gun up like that, and start to cock the pistol. Cut. I'm handed a gun, and someone declares, they said, "This is a cold gun."
Dave Halls?
The first AD. In my years on the sets of film, hot gun meant that there was a charge in there, and cold gun meant there was nothing in there. When he's saying this is a cold gun, what he's saying to everybody on the set is, you can relax. The gun is empty.
That's what cold gun means.
Well, cold gun means there's no charge in there. There could be dummy rounds.
A dummy round looks like a real bullet, but is completely inert. It contains no explosive charge.
And you were rehearsing that scene. Was it an actual rehearsal? There's some disagreement about that, whether it was a formal rehearsal at that time.
This is a marking rehearsal where I'm going to show her. She's standing next to the camera. She's like this. You're me. She's got a monitor here. The camera is here filming that.
It's really bad. I mean, I don't know how the hell his lawyers allowed him to do this.
That way. She takes a monitor that is his monitor, the operator, and turns it toward her.
I mean, this can be used in trial.
It swivels, and she says to me, "Hold the gun lower. Go to your right. Okay, right there. Or do that. Or show it a little bit lower." And she's getting me to position the gun. Everything is in her direction. She's guiding me through how she wants me to hold the gun for this angle. And I draw the gun out, and I find a mark. I draw the gun out, I find a cut. And what's really urgent is the gun wasn't meant to be fired in that angle.
So if you're shooting directly into the camera lens, you're not aiming.
I'm not shooting into the camera lens. I'm shooting just off.
Just off.
Right, in her direction. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right in below her armpit, was what I was told. I don't know. This was a completely incidental shot, an angle that may not have ended up in the film at all. But we kept doing this. And so then I said to her, now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun. And I said, do you want to see that? And she said, yes. So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger.
See, the thing that's really bad about this is, you have to look at, I'm just saying for him, I wouldn't be doing this because he taught, and I don't have time to play through it today, but we're definitely going to play through it. He talked at his interrogation, which he shouldn't have said anything. He should have just had his lawyer and just said, I want my lawyer. And he talked there, and now he's talking in this interview. So there can be a lot of comparison to all the statements that he's making that may not turn out well for him at all, because, if any of that situation deviates from his original statement, they could find some holes in this. So
down and tilt it down a little bit.
I was him.
I cocked the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun, and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun, the gun goes off.
At the moment. The decisive
That was the moment the gun went off, yeah. That was the moment the gun went off.
It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never. That was the training that I had. You don't point a gun at me and pull the trigger. On day one of my instruction in this business, people said to me, never take a gun and go click, 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 because even though it's incremental.
Let's check this out. Let's find out. CNN reports weapon in deadly rust film set shooting could not be fired without pulling the trigger. FBI forensic testing finds. Forensic FBI testing of the gun used in fatal shooting on movie set of Rust found that the weapon handled by Alec Baldwin could not be fired without pulling the trigger while the gun was cocked, according to newly released forensic reports. Baldwin had a gun while rehearsing the scene, and they're saying that it wasn't. An attorney for the actor, CNN Sunday FBI report being misconstrued. The gun fired in testing only one time without having pulled the trigger when the hammer was pulled back, and the gun broke in two different places. attorney Luke Nickus said in an email to CNN, the FBI was unable to fire the gun to any prior test, even when pulling the trigger, because it was in such poor condition. I think that had been debunked. Let's see. FBI test Baldwin gun. So that was on the 14th. They're saying, I'm reading some other reports, it's saying that it says that was reported on the 14th. And I see another article here from Washington Post says suggests the gun rush shooting could not fire without. Let's see if there was any updated information. FBI test leads to find new findings in Rust movie shooting. Let's see. FBI testing leads to new findings in Rust movie. Let's see what this article says. Says Alec Baldwin is taking issue with FBI report about the October shooting death of cinematographer on set of his movie Rust. The FBI says the gun Baldwin was holding when cinematographer Halyna Hutchins was fatally shot could not have been fired without the trigger being pulled. Baldwin's attorney said Sunday that the report is being misconstrued and that the gun fired in testing only one time without having to pull the trigger. When the hammer was pulled back, the gun broke in two different places. So they're saying that the trigger was never pulled. The FBI was unable to fire the gun in any prior test, even when pulling the trigger, because it was in such poor condition. Interesting. I had thought that got debunked. I thought that they said that it was pulled.
You damaged the firing pin on the gun if you do that. Don't do that.
And Hall's attorney told ABC News that he was watching and agrees that Alec did not pull the trigger and that his finger was outside the trigger guard.
So you have this Colt 45, you just pulled.
The hammer as far back as I could without cocking the actual.
And you're holding onto the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing. I go, how about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes off.
Another commercial.
All right.
Thank you, YouTube.
What?
At least this
don't judge me.
Channel's getting paid.
Everyone is horrified. They're shocked. It's loud. They don't have their earplugs in. No one was. The gun was supposed to be empty. I was told I was handed an empty gun. If there were cosmetic rounds, nothing with a charge at all, a flash round, nothing. She goes down. I thought to myself, did she faint?
Sorry, I'm looking
The
up
notion
articles
that there
while
was a
the video is
live
playing.
round in that gun did not dawn on me till probably 45 minutes to an hour later.
45 minutes to an hour.
Well, she's laying there and I go, did she hit it by wadding? Was there a blank? Sometimes those blank rounds have a wadding inside that packs, it's like a cloth that packs the gunpowder. And sometimes wadding comes out and can hit people. And it could.
Let me, I just found this article. Let's read this really quick. Let's see. This one says from WANE.com, FBI, Alec Baldwin pulled trigger in deadly Rust shooting. It was originally posted on August 15th, and then it was updated on August 15th of 2012. The latest FBI forensic report shows that the .45 caliber used in the fatal shooting on Rust movie set could not have been fired without pulling the trigger. Could not have been fired without pulling the trigger. Alec Baldwin was pointing a gun at cinematographer Halyna Hutchins when it went off on October 21st, killing Hutchins and wounding the director, Joel Souza. A newly released FBI analysis of the revolver that Baldwin had in his hand suggested it was in working order at the time. It would not have discharged unless it fatally cocked. It was fully cocked and the trigger was pulled. Baldwin, however, previously told ABC's George Stephanopoulos the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger, and obviously you're watching that right now. Baldwin also said he believed he was handling a cold gun, meaning without any live ammunition. I thought that I read something like this before after all of the things came out, that they actually did come to a conclusion that it was pulled. With the hammer in the full cocked position, the FBI report stated the gun could not be made to fire without pulling the trigger while the working internal components were intact and functional. During testing of the gun by the FBI, authorities said portions of the gun's trigger seared, the cylinder stop fractured while the hammer was struck. That allowed the hammer to fall, and the firing pin detonated the primer. So it was stated that it needed to be pulled for that gun to go off. So the trigger was pulled. Let's finish up the rest of this here, and then I'm going to end this stream.
I feel like a little bit of a poke. But no one could understand. Did she have a heart attack? Because remember, the idea that someone put a live bullet in the gun was not even in reality.
Did you go up to her? Did you back
I went
away?
up to her, and then we were told to get out of the building. We were forced to get out of the building. The medics came in. I mean, I stood over her for 60 seconds, and she just lay there kind of in shock.
Was she conscious?
My recollection is yes.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
We need an ambulance out at Bonanza Creek Ranch right now. We've had 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally.
I'll connect you with medical dispatch. Don't hang up.
Director Joel Souza is also wounded. His shoulder hit by the same bullet that traveled through Halyna.
When she went down, he went down, and he was screaming really loudly. And I thought, what is he screaming? What happened?
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay.
We have 2 injuries from a movie gun shot.
Okay, we're getting them out there already. Just stay on the phone with me. Okay.
Within 15 minutes or 20 minutes after that, the police arrived and took the church set and put the crime tape around it, the yellow tape, and forced us all to the perimeters of the parking area where we sat and waited. She was in the church, and she was not taken out of the church for quite a while.
In the aftermath, there was chaos and confusion.
But nobody told you what happened?
No. It wasn't until I was in the police station. Hours later, I mean, it was like seeing aliens. It was utter disbelief over the idea. It was unacceptable, the idea that it was a live round. And finally, one of the police officers, at the conclusion of my interview, I was there for like an hour and a half or so, she takes her phone and she slides it across to me. She says, "That's what came out of Joel's shoulder. A 45 caliber slug. It was a real bullet."
Had you known that Joel had been hit?
No one had any idea until that police officer, that sheriff's officer, said to me, "This is the slug, 45 caliber slug they took out of Joel's arm." And then the kind of insanity-inducing agony of thinking that someone put a live bullet in the gun.
When people ask me where I draw my creative inspiration from,
Tonight, breaking news.
A fatal shooting on the set of Alec Baldwin's new movie in New Mexico.
Something went horribly wrong here in Santa Fe.
We've all seen that picture of you off the set in that hour or so after the gun went off. What were you doing? What was going through your mind?
At the end of, she was laying there, and she was there for a while. I was amazed at how long they didn't get her in a car and get her up, but they waited and a helicopter came. And by the time the helicopter took off with her and literally lifted off, we were all glued to that process outside. When she finally left, I don't know how long it was she was there, 30 minutes, 40 minutes? It seemed like a very long time. But they kept saying, "Oh, she's stable." Like nobody, just as you disbelieved that there was a live round in the gun, you disbelieved that this was going to be a fatal accident.
So you didn't know exactly how serious it was?
At the very end of my interview with the sheriff's department, they said to me, "We regret to tell you that she didn't make it, she died." They told me right then and there. And that's when I went in the parking lot and called my wife to talk to my wife.
Shock and grief. Halyna's husband, Matthew, posted a tribute to Halyna. Halyna inspired us all with her passion and vision, and her legacy is too meaningful to encapsulate in words. Our loss is enormous.
When this happened, Her husband comes to town. Her husband, Matthew. And I met with him and their son. And he was as kind as you could be.
What can you possibly say to him?
I don't know what to say. He hugged me and he goes, I suppose you and I are going to go through this together, he said. And I thought, well, not as much as you are, and his little boy is there who's 9 years old. I have 6.
Real quick, I just wanted to read this definition via Wikipedia. A film producer. A film producer is a person who oversees film production, either employed by a production company or working independently. Producers plan coordinate various aspects of film production, such as selecting the script, coordinating writing, directing, editing, and arranging financing. The producer is responsible for finding a select promise material for development. Unless the film is based on an existing script, the producer hires a screenwriter and oversees the script development. He also supervises pre-production. They also supervise pre-production, principal photography, post-production stages of filmmaking. So he is ultimately responsible. He has responsibility on this set. So, if bottom line, it comes down to he should have known what was going on that set the entire time. And something obviously got mishandled and miscued.
Now I have my older
that
daughter,
falls on
Ireland,
him.
of the 6 kids that Ilaria and I have. My oldest is 8. I have a 9-month-old baby. And I think to myself, this little boy doesn't have a mother anymore. And I know that in my life, I'm with my kids and I'm doing quite well with my kids. My kids and I are having a great time, right until my wife walks in the room. And then I become invisible. My kids all go and they jump on top of their mother. And this boy doesn't have a mother anymore. And there's nothing we can do to bring her back. And I told him, I said, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to convey to you how sorry I am and how I'm willing to do anything I can to cooperate.
In the aftermath of the shooting, a torrent of criticism.
The first thing you do when you pick up that gun is you make sure that it's never pointed at anybody.
He should have known that an AD handing you a gun and saying it's cold isn't the same as several people showing you an empty gun.
If I were holding that gun, I would have checked it, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. People said to me, I got countless people online saying, you idiot, you never point a gun at someone. Well, unless you're told it's empty, and it's the director of photography who's instructing you on the angle for a shot we're going to do. And she and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty. And
again, he's going to be held ultimately responsible for something, in some way. The tragic thing about this is that, someone died, by someone, accident, whatever. The trigger was pulled. The gun was never checked. That's ultimately up to his responsibility to make sure, even if someone's handing you a gun, you make sure. And you don't point a gun at anybody. And, the sad thing about it is that if he is found guilty in a court of law, probably with his status and everything, he's not going to really see any real time. He'll do time, but it's probably going to be 6-8 months and he'll be out. And that's the sad thing. But if it's me or any of you regular people out there, we'd be in jail for the next.
And that's not her responsibility. That's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility is remains to be seen. But
there are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
Unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle. That's exactly what happened. That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Which is what?
Which is that there's an armorer there, and that word is new to me. In the years I've been in this
What did you call it?
It was a prop guy or woman. And the prop person would come, and sometimes they would insist on demonstrating for you and the camera crew. They take the gun, if it was a contemporary gun, they show you the chamber, they show you the clip, they say, the gun is cold. And you look at it and go, thank you. And in the 40 years.
Sometimes that would happen.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Well, but no, sometimes they wouldn't demonstrate to me. Some insisted on demonstrating. they would do the demonstration for everybody there right before we rolled the camera or rehearsed. Then there were others who they didn't do that because I trusted them to do the job. And again, this is not just me pointing a gun at somebody else, people pointing guns at me. I've gotten shot and killed in films before where people had to shoot a flash round at me, and I trusted them to do their job. And in the 40 years I've been in this business, all the way up until that day, I never had a problem.
How many times do you think you handled a gun in those 40 years?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't know. What amazes me is how many bullets, how many rounds of bullets do you believe have been fired on the sets of movies and TV shows in the last 75 years?
No idea.
Right. It couldn't be above 1 billion. You've had hundreds and hundreds of millions of bullets fired on the sets of films and TV shows, and 4 or 5 people were killed. Now, those deaths are tragic and abhorrent. And believe me, I would do anything in my power. I would do anything in my power to undo what was done. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun. I don't know. But I'm all for doing anything that will take us to a place where this is less likely to happen
Ultimately, you
again.
should have known how it got there.
Every single time I'm handed a gun on a set, every time, Mark, they hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show it to the person I'm pointing it to, we show it to the crew. Every single take, you hand it back to the armor when you're done, you do it again. Right. Everyone does it. Everybody knows it.
How do you respond to actors like George Clooney who say that every time they were handed a gun, they checked it themselves?
Well, there were a lot of people who felt it necessary to contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation at all. You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you. You know, I probably handled weapons as much as any other actor in film.
It's called being responsible
with an average career. Again, shooting or being shot by someone. And in that time, I had a protocol, and it never let me down.
Why did you choose in your 40 years not to check the gun yourself?
What I was taught by someone years ago was, as I said, if I took a gun and I popped a clip out of a gun or I manipulated the chamber of a gun, they would take the gun away from me and redo it. The prop person said, don't do that, when I was young. And they'd say, one thing you would need to understand is we don't want the actor to be the last line of defense against a catastrophic breach of safety with the gun. My job, they told me, man or woman, my job is to make sure the gun is safe, and then I hand you the gun and I declare the gun safe. The crew's not relying on you to say that it's safe. They're relying on me to say that it's safe.
Should be relying on everybody that is handling that gun that it's safe.
Handing me the weapon. I trusted them, and I never had a problem.
And this was from the beginning of your career?
From day one. There's one person that's supposed to make sure that what is in the gun is right and that what's wrong is not in the gun. One person has that responsibility to maintain the gun. And
what is the actor's responsibility?
Yeah.
I guess that's a tough question because the actor's responsibility going this day forward is very different than it was the day before that. Oh, now I can't. First of all, I can't imagine I'd ever do a movie that had a gun in it again.
Sure.
And I can't.
Right.
When you say what is the actor's responsibility is to
find your way
do what the prop armorer tells him to do.
Yeah. Again, it's deflecting.
We did not have a problem. I mean, I understand there was an accidental discharge at one point on the set of a blank round, but we did not have a problem
That's not
for
good
me
either.
Until that day. Everything gets slowed down. Zapruder film-esque here. And the issue with that is there's only one question to be resolved, only one. That is, where did the live round come from?
Yeah. It's the mystery now. It's the conspiracy, Alec. It's the conspiracy. All right, that sums that one up. That sums up the stream for the day. Again, Alec Baldwin has been charged with involuntary manslaughter for the shooting of Halyna Hutchins on the set of Rust back in 2021. And also the armorer that was there. And I'm sorry, I forgot, Gutierrez, I believe her last name has been charged as well. So we will keep monitoring this. I'm going to be doing probably some live streams about this too as more information comes out. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Alec is ultimately responsible? Did he pull the trigger? Let me know down below in the comments. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Hit the bell notification every time I go live. You guys will know. And when I drop new videos, appreciate all the brand new subscribers on the channel. You guys are doing an amazing job pushing the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel out into the world and the algorithm. Only thing I ask is please interact on those videos. It helps push this channel along further out in the algorithm so we can build a audience. We can build a team, a crew, and really enjoy what goes on over here. With that being said, I'm going to end the stream today. Like I always say, opinions are like assholes, and everybody's got one. See you guys next time. Peace.
We'll be right back.